On September 17th of 2000, a little girl lay lying in a hospital bed, dying, clinging for life, and without much hope. Doctors came in and told that little girl that she had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and she and her parents had no idea what that was. Well, that little girl was me. And here I am today. I stuck with it and I fought to stay alive and come out of that hospital. And I want everyone here to be aware of what diabetes really is, the seriousness of it, and what the symptoms are and some of the misconceptions of diabetes, and the hope for diabetics for the future. So to begin, before I start telling what the different types of diabetes are, you need to be aware that there in your body is an organ called the pancreas. And what the pancreas does is it produces insulin. Because when you consume food, it turns into glucose. And your pancreas produces insulin to break down that glucose into energy for your body. And without that, you would have a buildup of so much glucose in your system that you would die. So you can't live without insulin. For a diabetic, they have to use man-made insulin to be able to survive. So the three types of diabetes is gestational diabetes, which is what some mothers get when they are pregnant because they have too much hormones and estrogen buildup. So it blocks the amount of insulin that can be secreted to break down glucose. And a pregnant mother would have to check her blood sugar to monitor the baby and herself, because if you don't monitor it well, you can cause severe damage to your child. But after the birth of the child, your body will go back to normal once your hormones settle down, and you can go back to a normal life. The second one is type 2 diabetes, which is what most people are more familiar with. This one, a lot of people associate this with being overweight or people who eat too much sugar, but actually that's not really true. It's more associated with older age. Because as you get older, your body starts to shut down, and so your pancreas, it can't produce as well as it used to. And so for this one, sometimes you just have to watch your diet, or if it's a little bit more severe, doctors will put you on a tablet to monitor your diabetes. And the last one, which is what I'm going to be focusing on today, is type 1 diabetes. And what this one specifically is an autoimmune disorder, which means that your immune system looks at what the pancreas does by producing insulin. As a virus, it attacks it and kills it, so your insulin cannot be produced anymore. And this is a graph of that, because this is what the insulin comes out of here, and it breaks down the glucose into energy, which goes into your bloodstream. And it'll cause a buildup and a blockage if you have too much glucose in your system. So some of the myths about diabetes. One of the big ones, diabetes is not that serious. In fact, it is extremely serious. It is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. And diabetes takes the life of more people than breast cancer and AIDS combined together. So that's why I think diabetes is a lot more serious than what a lot of people think. And again, like I said, this is one of the biggest misconceptions and lies about diabetes. When I was diagnosed, I was 25 pounds underweight, and I didn't eat any sweets as a child. So this really is, it's not true. I mean, in type 2 diabetes, overweight people, it does, it adds to your problem, but it's not the main reason that you get diabetes, is eating too much. And the last one, with a strict diet, diabetics can live a easy and comfortable life, and you can have really tight control. I keep very, very tight control of my diabetes, but it's a constant struggle. Every day you wake up, you have to know that you're fighting to stay alive. And with testing your blood sugar or taking shots to put insulin to your body, so it does it can make your life very difficult, but you can live a good life with it. It should never stop you from doing what you want to do with your life. And some of the symptoms that a type 1 diabetic faces, even type 2 diabetics, they experience these two. This is hypoglycemia. This is what happens when your body doesn't have enough glucose in it, because you have to have a level, even amount of glucose in your body with insulin to function. So this is when you don't have enough glucose in your system to put energy into it and feed the brain. And some of the effects that you feel when this happens, you get very shaky, headachy, dizzy, grumpy. For instance, when I get very low, I lose all sense of feeling in my mouth. I can't taste, everything goes numb, and I get really, really shaky, and usually my eyes glaze over. So the symptoms can be very different for each individual diabetic, but these are the most common ones that each one faces. And if it's not treated right away, hypoglycemia, you can go into a diabetic convulsive seizure, which is very dangerous and can lead to your hospitalization. So stopping that hypoglycemia before it gets too low by adding more sugar into you, just by eating a simple snack, can prevent a very serious injury to your life. The other one is hyperglycemia, which is basically the opposite of hypo. And this one is considered more dangerous to you than the hypoglycemia, because this one is when you have too much glucose in your system and not enough insulin to break it down. So you have so much in your body that it starts to destroy parts of your body, destroys your nerves, your vision. And over time, if you let your body stay in hyperglycemia, you can go blind, you can have liver failure, heart failure, and one of the most common ones, unfortunately, is amputations over time. It usually starts in your legs. So this one you really want to stay more on top of, because it is so much harder to deal with the effects of hyperglycemia, and it's way more difficult to counterattack than hypoglycemia. And the way that you fix hyperglycemia is by giving more insulin to try and get the extra glucose to be broken down. And what happens when you let your body go for too long in hyperglycemia, you get diabetic ketoacidosis. And what happens is your brain goes into a function where it thinks that your body is starving, even though you have so much glucose in your system. So your liver will secrete stored sugar, which turns it into a toxin, which is called ketones. And this is a very, very painful experience. In fact, 2 Sundays ago, due to I was sick, this happened, and I was in diabetic ketoacidosis for over 24 hours. And I was lying on a couch because it starts to slowly shut down your body. And if it isn't treated by hospitalization, then you will go into a diabetic ketoacidosis coma. And it's very hard to come out of that. So there are a lot of wonderful technologies, though, that have come out for diabetics to make their life so much easier. And one of those, this is a monitor, which is what diabetics use to test their blood sugar to be able to tell whether they need to eat something or whether or not they need to add more insulin. A normal blood sugar for a diabetic is between 80 and 100. So you want to try and keep it in that gap. And so this is a wonderful tool that'll tell you what it is, and you can adjust based upon that number. And I think one of the other most important things is the diabetic pump, which I actually am wearing today. This has been one of the most life-changing things for me. Before I was on a pump, I took 10 shots every day. And this completely does away with shots. It has insulin stored inside of it, and with this tube here, and goes inside of you by a push of a single button, and then you can go about your daily life. And another of the wonderful devices is this little chip right here that you wear inside of you, called a continuous glucose monitor. This is absolutely phenomenal, because what this does is it takes a blood sample, and every 5 minutes it sends a signal to this pump in the form of a graph and it'll tell you what your blood sugar is doing and what it will do in the next 20 minutes. It will tell you, hey, your blood sugar is going to go it's going to go up. You're going to go into hyperglycemia in 20 minutes. It can predict that. And so you can adjust before that happens and stop that in its tracks, and vice versa. It'll tell you, show you a down arrow, say in 20 minutes you're going to drop your blood sugar. You need to get some sugar inside of you before you do serious damage to yourself. So that is a phenomenal tool, and it'll alert you in the night. It'll wake you up with an alarm saying, hey, you need to do something right now. So there are many, many wonderful technologies out there, medical devices for diabetics to wear. So, and with that, I look forward to the future for a cure for diabetes, and there are many people who are working towards that, and I look forward to the day that all diabetics can be cured.